Elements of Digital Storytelling in the Elementary Classroom by Stacy White. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Maya Angelou.
Digital storytelling is a term that's been thrown around a lot recently, but what does it actually mean? And more importantly, what doesn't it mean? It's not about telling an isolated story, because it's about sharing and connecting experiences and perspectives with a community. Therefore, it's not only about telling a story, it's about contributing and collaborating with others in a joint experience. And it's definitely not about creating media, because it's about creating meaning. It's not only the transfer of knowledge, it's about the amplification of voices. And it's not about substituting analog stories, it's about transforming those stories into something new and exciting. And most importantly, it's not just about the tools, it's about the skills that you have.
The first step to a good digital story is, of course, to brainstorm and plan. When you're brainstorming and planning with your students, there should be lots of interaction and discussion on exactly what their story should be about. Remember, if you don't have a good written story, you won't have a good digital story. Step 2 is to have your students begin writing a script. It's important that your students understand that writing is a process, a long process, and they will not be finished with their writing the first time they get their draft on paper. You can introduce your students to several techniques, such as the hamburger method, so they can clearly organize their introduction, their middle points, and their conclusion in order to outline their story before they begin writing. Another useful way to organize your students' thoughts is to use a story map or some other graphic organizer.
At this point in writing, you're going to have to remind your students that writing is a process. They are making progress, but it's going to be a multi-step process in which they have to conference with you and their peers.
Once your students have gotten all of their ideas organized and they're ready to write, now's the time for them to get into Google Docs. Google Docs is a great way for your students to share their papers with you and their classmates in order to make the conferencing process much easier.
Students will choose to share their paper as can comment in order to peer review.
Once they find an area they want to comment on, whether it needs to be more detailed or it needs to be spelling mistake or grammar mistake, the student simply highlights the section, clicks the comment button, and then chooses to type in their comment. So here we might want to say, check the spelling and comma use. Once I'm ready to make the comment, I hit the blue comment button, and now it is sent to the owner of the paper. This is a wonderful way that students can collaborate back and forth through Google Docs.
The third step is to create a storyboard. Your students will need to create a storyboard so that they get a good plan of images and voice and everything that they'll be able to pull together. In step 4, your students will rely heavily on their storyboard, their plan, as they choose to gather and create their images, their audio, and their video files.
If students are looking for images of their cat for their story, when I type in cat, there are lots of cute kitties that show up. All of these images, however, may not be free for us to use. You can teach your students how to go to Tools and then Usage Rights so that they can filter for any cat pictures that are labeled for reuse.
Before moving to the last and final step, you'll make sure that, again, your students peer edit to make sure that they are ready to complete their story. Once all stories are done, your last and final step is to have a grand movie premiere and certainly celebrate a job well done.